why were beings put here on this planet in the first place? I've heard that it was to mine gold and perhaps bring it to a different...
Well, there is one aspect of your history that does contain that, but you weren't put here. The idea is that there was a naturally evolved hominid being that existed on your planet as part of its natural evolution, and genetically it was altered by an extraterrestrial race to become what you now understand yourself to be as Homo sapien.
Can you tell me what that extraterrestrial race was?
Well, you refer to them as the Anunnaki.
Are we to actually mine that gold and bring it back to that planet?
Not now. Back then, that is something that was happening. But the idea is that the way things happened back then was ultimately found out by the majority of the Anunnaki, and the Anunnaki contingent that was on your planet who was doing those genetic alterations was recalled, because it was understood that much of what they were doing was not within the integrity of the Anunnaki people. And so you were left to your own devices with some guidance now and then, in a sense to attempt to course correct the idea of what that contingent has done and allow you to grow and evolve as a species in balance. Of course, it's been what you would call a little bit of a rocky road.
And the Homo sapien on your planet, after many different kinds of incarnational lifetimes, did allow itself to expand and explore the idea of creating civilizations that were similar to the galactic civilizations with whom they were interacting, and thus brought about some of the first and earliest civilizations on your planet. That which you call now in your faded memories, the idea of Shambhala, the ideas of Lemuria or Mu, the ideas of Atlantis, or in its original name, Aztlan. The idea being that as these civilizations were formed, each had a specific relationship to the vibration of the earth in a very different way than what you experience now on your planet. The idea of the ancient Shamballa, in what you call the ancient Gobi Desert now, was actually a lush paradise at that time, and was formed as a center of learning, a center of spiritual growth, to aid and assist the Homo sapien in refining their vibration to a very high level. And they learned through these techniques of meditation and so forth, where this was first formed, many different ideas that were downloaded from higher levels, higher planes, what you may even call the idea of source or Akashic records. In that sense, they were a very learned society. But the idea also is that they knew things would change as they expanded out over the world. There were also other extraterrestrial infusions from time to time, what you may call interbreedings, and again the creation of certain genetic lines on your planet that would be for the purpose of aiding and assisting the Homo sapien in vibrationally connecting to its higher self. But being what it is, Earth goes through cycles, and there have been many of what you call cataclysms on the Earth that many times have wiped the slate almost clean of a variety of civilizations, to begin from a different point, to begin from a different perspective. And thus then also was Lemuria or Mu in the original language created once again by Homo sapiens. But this time you will find that they were slightly different, having now more of the genetic lines of different ancient alien societies. They were functioning in a very different way, telepathically, very, very intuitively connected to the earth. The idea being they had, in that sense, no real written language per se, except for a few simple symbols. But the idea is that they were highly telepathic, highly emotional, highly intuitive, very fundamentally natural in the same way that you now consider many of your animals to be, even though they are also intelligent in their own way. Lemurians or Muans in that sense were also slightly blue-tinged as representative of the idea of the extraterrestrial race to whom they were genetically connected. And once again, through the idea of many of the cataclysms that broke up some of the Southeast Asian land masses that formed the extension of the Asian continent into what you call the Pacific realm that was the area of Mu. As it broke up in that sense, many excursions were taken across the planet, many migrations were taken across the planet to create many other civilizations, some of which are the roots of some of the civilizations you are familiar with now. But one in particular would be what you call the American Indian or Native American or indigenous people societies of the North American continent and the African continent and so on and so forth, which progressed onto the area now in what you call your Atlantic Ocean, your southern part of what the area is that you now call the Caribbean area. That was the idea of the Atlantean area. That which now has land masses which are sunken under the ocean, which you now call the idea of the Bahamas and the Grand Bahama Banks and Cuba and part of what you call Florida and many of the submerged islands in that area all together, being above the water in those times, in what you call your last ice age, presented the land mass that was the seat of government of the Atlantean civilization. And again, there was trade with what you call the Asian and now Eurasian and European continents and the South American areas. And they were mostly now remembered through the civilization or similar to the civilization that you now understand as Aztecan and Mayan and Olmec and Mixtec and many of these. Again, cataclysms occurred that pretty much wiped the slate clean, and this from the idea of what you now have come to recognize as cometary or asteroidal bombardment. The idea of the comet that, in your terms, crashed into the Atlantic Ocean and caused a tsunami that washed over the Atlantean landmass and parts of your eastern seaboard and South America and Europe and Africa, and in that sense wiped that civilization from the earth. All but the memory, but there are a few storehouses of knowledge that do remain, for they did have a written language, and these have yet to be found. The idea of taking all of this into account, your Shambhala, your Mu, your Atlantean experiences, and the indigenous societies that are offshoots of them that have now progressed in a sense, or simply changed or mutated into the present societies on earth that you now understand, going through many different kinds of changes, many different kinds of beliefs, many different kinds of experiences of connection and disconnection and reconnection, and the idea that has brought you to this point in your evolution of remembering who and what you are, bringing to bear your consciousness in such a way as to now stop forgetting your connection to spirit, are all recapitulations and rememberings of the idea of bringing yourself to this point again. But now there can be a difference. Now that you have arrived at what is cyclically, generally speaking, the end of the cycle of great limitation on your planet and great forgetfulness on your planet, you do not have to wipe yourselves from the earth again. You are bringing yourselves into a balance, into an understanding with your spiritual and consciousness explorations, that you can take all of the knowledge of your experiences in these civilizations and these lives that you call the past, and you can bring it to bear in an amalgamated way to move forward in what you call the future, so that you can now remember who you are and connect to your spirituality and connect to your consciousness in such a manner as to know that you can change things drastically and dramatically and shift from one cycle to another in consciousness without necessarily having to wipe yourselves physically from the face of the earth again in order to do so.
What would you say is one of the most positive benefits we received from the inclusion of the Anunnaki genetics?
You'll find that out when you allow all of the different markers that have been shut down to reopen. You will start experiencing your reality in a very different way. One of the reasons why you explore space itself, in a sense, is a result of that.
By the way,
Had they not tinkered with you, you also would not have evolved the concept of religion in the way that you did. You would simply have, as you're rediscovering, a concept of a natural relationship to creation rather than intermediaries. It was because many of them made you believe they were gods and allowed you to worship them that the entire basis of religion was created on your planet. You wouldn't have it if it wasn't for their existence in your lives back then, about 500, 300,000 years ago. And again, we're talking holographic history, because there are many versions of this. You are evolving to a point where you will have a version that will serve you in the best possible way, which is one of the reasons why, when open contact actually does occur, one of the gifts you will be given is what you might think of as your true history on Earth. All of it. All the missing pieces. Everything. And then you will get to decide which parts you relate to and how you can allow yourself to be the people that you prefer to be, that would be representative of the kind of people that would have been created by the true history. That is in alignment with who you truly are. That's what we mean by true history. Not that there is only one history that is true, but that it is the history that is true for who you prefer to be.
This is how it works. Please, 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 again, understand. We are not giving you a philosophy. We are not giving you an opinion. We are describing an observation of how reality is structured, how it works. This is literally an instruction manual. By following the instructions, you allow the machine to work to your advantage. If you throw the instruction manual away, the machine may work, but you might also injure yourself. So the idea is just follow the instructions. Act on your highest passion every moment that you can. Take it as far as you can until you can take it no further. Do it with absolutely no insistence or assumption as to the outcome. Stay in a positive state no matter what happens, no matter what manifests, because the end cap to that instruction manual is it doesn't matter what happens. It only matters what you do with what happens. That's what makes the difference in your life, because everything is neutral and can serve double duty. So even though something may have originated negatively, even though someone else's experience or opinion of it may be negative, if you stay in a neutral state and in a positive state by knowing that you must be experiencing this for a positive reason, no matter how it looks, you will also and always derive a positive and beneficial effect from it, no matter what anyone else is getting out of it. That's up to you. That's your call. You have that choice, you have that freedom, you have that power to determine what this means for you in your life. Even something that you might neutrally not prefer must still be there for a reason if it manifested in your life. If you stay in a positive understanding of that, then you will be able to use what you don't prefer in a way that you do prefer. It will still give you some benefit. If nothing else, sometimes things manifesting that you don't prefer more clearly delineate the difference between what you don't prefer and what you do prefer, and that's a positive effect. So always use it to your advantage. It's always your choice to do so. You always have the ability to make that choice. And then you will experience the idea of abundance in all its forms. You will go with the flow of your own current in creation, and you will experience the effortlessness and the joy that life has to offer. When you have belief systems that create resistance to the idea of opening up to the other forms, you slow everything down by insisting that it can only happen this way, and I can only do this if this happens in this way. Then you're actually slowing down the process by which you might actually have been capable of doing whatever that is much more quickly and much more easily. Is this making some sense? So allow yourself, as you go through life and as you act on your passion to the best you can, with no insistence or assumption on the outcome, please remember that third part of the formula, which many of you sometimes conveniently forget. I'm acting on my passion, I'm acting on my passion, I'm acting on my passion. And this had better happen, and this had better happen, and this had better happen, or something's wrong. That's not the formula. When we say act on your passion to the best you can, taking it as far as you can until you can take it no further, the implication in that statement is very clear. There will be moments when you will not be able to take it further in that way. That's not a block. It is an arrow pointing in an unexpected direction that is actually more representative of your true path. Let yourself go with the flow. Remember, sometimes many of you think that the path of least resistance is straight and true and short. Not always. In fact, not often. The idea is that sometimes the path of least resistance may be a very winding path, because it may need to get some experience under your belt. It may need to allow you to have a meeting over here with someone you hadn't met before. It may direct you over here to a bit of information that you require, so that you will have a deeper appreciation when you wind up wherever it is you are winding up by having gathered the things you needed on the way. That path is your path of abundance. The path of least resistance is the path of greatest abundance, greatest synchronicity, greatest allowance, greatest giving, greatest imagination, all of it. The idea being that even though some paths may look very short and very straight, if it's not your path of least resistance, it will actually take longer to travel that path than one that seems longer and winding, because the path of least resistance will offer no resistance. You will be able to move on that path much more quickly than a shorter path that has nothing to do with you, because that shorter path will be full of things that you will experience as resistance to slow you down, to indicate to you it's not your path. So even a longer path may get you where you're going much faster if it is your true path. And this also allows abundance to work more effectively for you in all of its forms, because then you will be in alignment with who you are. When we talk about the idea of being on your path, we remind you that this is just a euphemism. In other words, you're not on a path. You are a path. You are a unique expression of all that is. You are the experience itself that you are having. The idea is that all of your physical reality isn't outside you, it's within you. You are having that experience, you're projecting it within yourself, you're creating that experience within your consciousness. It is who and what you are as a unique representation and a unique reflection of creation, of existence, of all that is. So when you allow all forms of abundance to support you, then you allow yourself to truly take advantage of that particular tool in the kit of passion, because it contains very specific tools that will propel you through life in the most advantageous and joyful way. When you follow the formula of acting on your passion to the best you can, taking it as far as you can until you can take it no further, and you do this with absolutely no insistence or assumption as to where you're supposed to wind up, as we have told you before, you open up that kit that contains the driving engine of your life. It moves you through life very quickly because you are so excited to do what it is that excites you. You find the energy, it comes to you. It becomes the organizing principle of synchronicity. That means it brings you the opportunities that contain the highest excitement in the order in which you need to act on them. And whatever it is you didn't have time to do at the end of the day when you're excited about going to sleep, you didn't need to do that day. It is that organizational. It also is, as we have said, the path of least resistance that allows you to flow through life very rapidly, very effortlessly. It is the path that connects you to all expressions of your excitement in life, because there may be many. But it all interconnects. And if you follow that thread of excitement, you will see how they all interrelate and interconnect to get you where you need to go. Notice I keep saying where you need to go, not necessarily where you want to go, because that can sometimes be misleading. There may be times when what you want and what you need may be synonymous, but very often when you hold on to negative and fear-based belief systems, and sometimes you make choices out of desperation or fear, even unconsciously, what you want or think you need by wanting it is not necessarily what you actually need to be fulfilled. But to be fulfilled, you will be given everything you need, because that's another tool in the kit, is it leaves nothing relevant for you out. It is a complete kit. It contains everything you need. It is designed vibrationally for you. It's your path. You are the path. It's your frequency. That's what passion is. It's your frequency being experienced in bodily form as a sensation. And it is the translation of your higher mind's language to you. The higher mind speaks in energy. The translation, the way you experience the higher mind's language, is through the sensations called passion, love, excitement, creativity. That's how it translates in your body. When you respond by actually taking an action on your passion, you are responding in the language of physical reality, which is physical action. Because you can sit and think about it all day long. You can ponder it, you can wonder about it, you can give it lip service, but it will never actually be a response to your higher mind if it doesn't actually come through the physical actions you take. So the idea is that when you do take the physical action, you are demonstrating to your higher mind that you recognize that the passion is who you are, you're willing to act on it, you are committing to act on it. That's a response the higher mind understands from the language of physical reality, and therefore it will give you more to be excited about, and more to be excited about, and more to be excited about, because you're willing to act on the excitement, and act on the excitement, and act on the excitement. If you're not acting on it, why should the higher mind send you more passion, more excitement? You're not doing anything with what you've already been given. You have to get the cycle going. You have to get it running and keep it running by constantly acting on that passion. And therefore, you're having that conversation, you're having that dialogue with your higher mind, and you're acting as a whole person. Half in spirit, half in physical experience, the whole person working together in concert, in a partnership. So, the idea then is that the kit of excitement, the kit of passion also contains the reflective mirror that reveals to you anything that might be out of alignment in your belief system with your passion, so that you can identify it, see why it's there, realize it has nothing to do with you, realize it's out of phase with your vibration, and let it go and add that energy back into your momentum, into your excitement. But the idea of discovering something that doesn't excite you, that's part of your excitement. It's not a block in your excitement. It is part of your passion to find out what beliefs are not part of your passion. Because then you are clarifying, accelerating yourself in that way by stripping away all the things that don't belong to you. Please remember, your own baggage weighs nothing. If you feel weighed down, you're carrying someone else's bags, someone else's beliefs. Your parents, your friends, your society, your schooling, wherever they came from, if you feel weighed down, that should be your first clue that you're carrying around baggage that doesn't belong to you. Drop it, and you will feel much lighter and be far more vibrationally receptive to all the different forms of abundance and support that are capable of coming to you in your life as the path that you chose to be. Does this make sense?
We humans are very dependent as children and therefore easily programmable. In many cases, this programming is very much to our disadvantage. Where is our power in this regard?
Your power in that regard is having chosen the circumstances in general, and maybe sometimes specifically, of the parents and the family that you are born to, knowing that the so-called programming you would get of them passing on their particular beliefs to you, telepathically or otherwise, are going to set you up for the challenges that you need to face in life to transform those things in the way that will propel you forward according to the theme you chose to explore. So your power is not absent in this. It is simply the setup for you that you generally chose to experience certain challenges that you would then learn to transform, so that you could fulfill the idea of this experience, this theme that you chose to explore in physical reality.
Okay, thank you. And what exactly is the structure of power? You talk about power being built into us. What about the power of a newborn child being abandoned and left to die? Or the power of a young child abandoned and raised by wild animals?
Well, again, this is similar to what we just said. Certain experiences, certain ideas, certain belief systems are chosen to be born into for certain experiences that the soul may wish to have to add to its growth. Just because a child's life, even an infant's life, may not necessarily seem to make sense or may not necessarily appear to have power, doesn't mean it doesn't. It's very important to remember that all of you are indestructible, eternal, infinite spirits, and that the idea of the physical presentation is simply something that is usually representative of the theme that is chosen by the spirit or the soul to be explored in this life. So no matter how it appears to you, it is usually representative of the particular kind of challenge that that soul wanted to experience in some way, shape, or form, either to just have the experience or to transform it in some way, as we said, that is representative of that soul's theme.
Okay. When I try to change my beliefs, my brain seems to be very stubborn. I try to get to the bottom of the issue and I don't get any answers. What's a good way to approach a stubborn brain?
Well, first, stop defining that you have a stubborn brain, because you don't. What you're experiencing, again, is simply the fear-based belief that's making you think it's difficult to find out what it is that it's saying to you. So it takes real deep honesty and real deep willingness to actually explore what that belief is saying, and not just chalk it up to the idea that you have a stubborn brain. That's just an idea that the fear-based belief is telling you to buy into, so that you have a reason not to be able to recognize or realize consciously what the fear or negative belief is saying to you. So first and foremost, don't define it as a stubborn brain. Your brain is a receiver and it's working fine. Just allow yourself to see through the illusion or through the smoke and mirrors that the negative belief is attempting to get you to buy into, that your brain is preventing you from understanding what the negative belief is. Just be willing to be more open. You will find that nothing will block you if you are not afraid to find out what that negative belief is. But remember, it's the negative belief that is attempting to make you afraid to go exploring more deeply.
Okay. Is our ego inherently neutral? Is there a good and a bad ego? And do animals have an ego?
Ego, in a sense, yes, is fundamentally neutral, because it's simply the device, the framework, shall we say, that you impose upon your greater consciousness in order to have what you call a physical experience. So in that sense, yes, animals have ego in the neutral sense that allows them to have a physical experience, that focuses them down, like it does for you, into something a little bit more contained, a little bit more narrow, so you can have the physical experience. Negative ego is simply when the ego is given more than it is designed to handle, and it starts, shall we say, rebelling against that, because it's not designed to be in control, to be in charge, to decide what's true for you. Your greater self is, your collective personality in alignment with your higher self, is that which is designed to decide for yourself, to choose for yourself what is really representative of your fundamental frequency. But the ego is just designed to give you clarity in the experience that you decide to have. That's all it is doing. And the positive side of that is that when the ego is simply allowed to do the job it was designed to do, it aligns more readily with your higher mind, it is experienced in a more positive way, and it almost seems to kind of disappear, other than realizing you have an identity as yourself in physical reality. So the positive side of the ego is that it becomes very transparent, almost like it's not there. The negative side is that it constantly calls your attention to it, because it thinks it has been given the task of deciding what is correct for you, or deciding what you should do or where you should go, and that's not what it's designed to do. It is simply designed to keep you focused in physical reality, and that's the neutral part of it.
Okay. My question is about my phobias. I've been going through a dark night of the soul recently and heavily triggered by my phobias of late. Why do I keep being triggered, and how can I get over my phobias?
Well, again, this is to some degree what we've been talking about here and there. You have to allow yourself to understand the symbol of the phobia. What does it symbolize for you in terms of how it presents itself, what it uses in physical reality to trigger the fear within you? Within the symbol, within the style of the phobia, is usually an indication of what the fear-based belief is that you've bought into, and you are using something to represent it, to symbolize it in physical terms. But this can be used to help you get at the core of what the phobia, what the fear, what the negative belief is actually all about. So investigate for yourself the meaning you have put into the symbol, the representation, the style of the phobia. And therefore that can begin to open doors for you as to what the fear-based belief is actually telling you. For example, the idea of a claustrophobia can be the idea that you feel trapped, that you don't believe that you are free necessarily to do what you need to do. These are simplifications, but it can begin to give you an idea of how to relate to the presentation of the particular phobia or fear within you. A fear of a particular animal can help you understand what the fear is about, what the belief system is telling you, if you understand what that animal symbolizes to you, what situation it puts you in when you think of that or perceive that or experience that particular kind of animal or symbol. So it can be best served by starting to unravel what the style is in which the fear presents itself to you, what it symbolizes, what it means to you, what meaning you have put into that symbol in your society or from you personally.
Okay. Why does it take one negative comment from someone for me to ruminate and overthink negative scenarios? And exploring why that person triggers me and why I give away my power to that person. Is that part of this process? And how can I get beyond this?
Well, again, yes. And it's again what we said. The fact that you are triggered means that that person has done the service of bringing to your attention that particular area in which you are giving your power away to the fear-based belief. So in bringing your attention to it, it allows you to explore what that belief would have to be in order for you to be so easily ready to accept that what that person is saying about you is true. Because if that is triggering you, it means you have a belief that what they're saying is true about you. In other words, you believe that to be true about yourself. So find out why you would continue to buy into that and be grateful that that person was capable of bringing your attention to belief systems that you are buying into, telling you things about yourself that aren't true, and yet you are buying into them as if they are. That's the purpose of being triggered, to bring your attention to a belief you're buying into that is saying things to you that aren't true about you, because it's showing you that you're saying those things or believing those things to be true about yourself. Because if you didn't believe them to be true, you couldn't be triggered by someone saying something like that.
So if someone approaches you and is aggressive towards you psychologically, a well-known person to you, and that triggers this kind of response of feeling responsible for the negative experience that you're having and attracting that into yourself. And
yes. Well, in a sense, you are responsible on your side. It doesn't excuse the perpetrator, because they're responsible for why they would present themselves that way. And self-investigation on their part would perhaps help them realize they don't necessarily have to be the aggressor. But someone who is on the receiving end is still responsible for feeling what they're feeling, because they are reacting to what is being said to them by the aggressor as if it's true. So it's about getting in touch with why you would buy into that being true. Of course, always making sure that there isn't some advice there that you could apply to yourself if it would help improve you. But beyond that, it's about developing the discernment to tell the difference about what is actually true for you and what is the other person's issue that really has nothing to do with you, but they may be using you to project their issues on you because they may be afraid to face those issues within themselves, may be in denial of them, and therefore you may be reminding them that they have those issues, and because they're not willing to dig within themselves to find out what they are, they may simply build up a resentment that you are kind of rubbing their nose in it. Whether you are attending to do that or not is not the issue. They may see you that way and may project on you the aggression that prevents them from having to look within themselves. So you have to develop for yourself the ability to tell the difference between what is an issue that's being reflected to you about you that you need to look at, or whether it's simply you're being willing to be in this scenario with someone to give them an opportunity to recognize that they are projecting an issue of theirs on you because they're afraid to face it within themselves.
And it kind of goes back to the programming issue that children, when they experience an authority figure like a parent being aggressive or dominant over
Yes.
them,
Yes.
that also connected with the idea of ruminating when you have something negative about you or to you presented, and then in childhood that might have been a very threatening thing because of the relationship, and so even if it's someone you care about and they're saying negative things to you or being aggressive with you, you're in a sense falling back into that earlier pattern.
Well, yes, it's pointing out that you have bought into it, maybe even from an early age, but it's giving you an opportunity to let go of it and free yourself from it by bringing it to your attention that it's something you may still be buying into.
Okay. And I know that one of the questions had to do with what is the psychological and physiological basis of fear in humans, and why is a fearful thought become so distorted and enlarged in some people? It also says that in religion, it's said that fear is the opposite of faith. From your perspective, how can we convert fear into a viewpoint where we recognize our own power?
Well, again, to some degree, this is a repeat of what we have said. It's all based on what you believe to be true to begin with, what you've been taught to buy into as true about yourself. And again, remember, negative beliefs are allowing you to filter your energy through them, and that's what distorts the energy physiologically, psychologically, is that you're simply funneling your energy through a negative belief, and a negative belief is something that's out of alignment, by definition, with who you truly are, with your core, true, essential frequency. So when you experience the idea of fear, the mechanical device that's generating it is the negative belief that's attempting to perpetuate itself, because in a sense it's designed to make sure you don't let it go. So it's going to, in some people, amplify, magnify whatever tool it needs, including fear, to make sure that you don't let it go. That's one of the ways it's designed to perpetuate itself. But if you understand that it's just a technique being utilized by the negative belief, and that the stronger the fear is, the harder the negative belief is working, so you don't let it go, which is an indication that you're actually very close to letting it go. So looking at the idea of amplified and magnified fear as being very close to letting go of the negative belief can put you across the threshold very quickly if you understand mechanically that that's the only reason why the fear is amping up, is because you're just about ready to let go of that negative belief about yourself. So starting to define these things and understand these things mechanically in that way can give you the ability to unlock yourself from them, because you understand that it's just a mechanism that the belief is using to perpetuate itself so that you won't let it go.
And so, in a sense, creating a step-by-step formula for the moment that you're triggered, I believe one of the first things you've suggested is you take a moment of pause.
Yes,
and
you stop and find out what you would have to believe is true about yourself in order to have the triggering experience. Because you wouldn't be triggered by someone saying something that had nothing to do with you, that you couldn't relate to. So the idea is to find out, why are you relating to what they've said or done in a way that seems true about you, when you know that you don't necessarily prefer it to be so. Again, it's always wise to make sure that what is being reflected to you is not something you need to pay attention to change yourself in a way that you might prefer to. But generally speaking, those ideas that trigger you into the fear are for the purpose of taking that moment for what it is and exploring what you would have to believe is true about yourself in order to have that particular fearful reaction. Because you wouldn't have that reaction if you automatically knew that what was being said or done wasn't true. You wouldn't be able to relate to it. There would be no reaction if you thought it had nothing to do with you.
So getting into that neutral state is really critical when it is just starting, because you feel the effect of it, and then you have to sort of watch your own behavior and your own thought patterns that are triggered by that situation, but coming from a neutral place where you're not giving away your power. Because I guess that's part of the question is, why give away your power to another person?
Because
and-
that's part of the belief structure in the negative belief, that you do so to keep you feeling powerless to change it. It's simply one of the tools in the kit of the negative belief that prevents you from letting it go.
Okay. So another question that's come up is that the collective experience is what manifests weather and wildfires and all kinds of, COVID, all kinds of challenges and experiences.
Yes.
Okay. So,
And the individuals, to some degree, that have agreed to abide by the collective consensus reality. Yes.
okay. And so you said that we must take responsibility for the manifestation, and that all these negative expressions are coming up right now to help us decide what we prefer and what we don't prefer, right?
Yes, correct. And remember that when we talk about the word responsibility, we are literally just saying the ability to respond. Literally. So the idea is that your responsibility is not about blame. We're not saying, oh, you specifically, personally caused this or wished it to happen or want this to be the scenario. We're simply saying that even if it's something that's the product of the mass consensus or other people who are vibrating incompatibly and making choices that are incompatible with the choices you would prefer to make, you are still able to respond in whatever way is actually most helpful to other individuals and the collective by sharing ideas and information for alternative ways to do things, alternative choices that could be made to give them options other than the ones they're choosing. That's what we mean by responsibility. We're not saying, oh, you're to blame. We're saying you are able to respond in a way that might help others change the way they choose things so as to not allow these kinds of experiences in the consensus to happen again. That's your responsibility.
And also your awareness that you are the one that will shift to a parallel earth where things are different.
Yes.
And that's really where you're empowered, because as long
Yes.
as you're responsible for your own vibration and you express your perspective through physical action.
Yes, remember, you're responsible for yourself. You are only responsible to others. And the responsibility to others that serves them is to either show them by your own actions or by what you have to say or some other technique or way that there might be other options more in alignment with what they really, truly, essentially might prefer in a more positive sense. Not that they have to choose it, because what they choose to do, no matter what you share with them, is none of your business. But the idea is that you will continue to take yourself more in the direction of the version of Earth you prefer, while at the same time you are giving them an opportunity to see in you as a living example that there might be other ways they can also make choices that would be more vibrationally compatible with the kind of world that you are navigating yourself to by the choices and behaviors that you exhibit.
And so the idea that other people's behavior and not liking their behavior and feeling like you can't control other people's behavior, that is still a disempowered perspective. And
Exactly.
instead you want to look at other people's behavior are you saying, you already said this,
Yes.
how to look at behavior that you don't approve of or you don't
It's not
prefer.
about approving it. It's about the idea of having the compassion to recognize that they simply have never been taught how to feel empowered within themselves. They haven't been given the tools or the kit or the knowledge or the understanding of how to shift the choices that they're making because it's based on their own fear-based beliefs. So while you may not prefer what they're doing, it's not about disapproval, because disapproval simply puts you on the same incompatible vibratory level that you say you don't prefer to be on. Have compassion, stay on the frequency you prefer to be on, and help guide them. But again, you have to do so freely, giving them the free will choice to ignore everything you're saying. but at least you're giving them the opportunity, the option to choose something different. And that's all you can do to be of service, to be of help, and to be responsible to others.
How are you?
Perfect. And you? Good day.
Thank you very much. Bashar, thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Well, you have co-created it with us, so thank you.
Be honest with you, since I'm new to this, I don't know if I can wrap my head around the idea of talking to a society 500 years in the future, but this is...
Well, you don't need to wrap your head around that. It's the information that is important. It doesn't matter whether you believe we are who we say we are. It's simply a methodology of delivering information, and if the information is applied in your life, the proof of the pudding, as you say on Earth, is that the information will make the changes in your life that are important. It doesn't matter whether you believe the source of the information if the information works for you.
Oh, okay. Recently, I read a book on a lady's experience on a near-death experience.
Yes.
She talked in depth about how she levitated over her bed with doctors trying to save her life. She experienced, she listened to conversations down the hall.
Yes.
And
these are all typical experiences in out-of-body near-death experiences.
Right. So what I was really perplexed by is the communication to a higher frequency she claimed that she had with her father that passed away 7 years before, and then also her friend 3 years after that.
Yes.
She said words can't describe how efficient the communication was. And I was just wondering if you can elaborate on how higher frequency works, and if that's the same type, is that the same communication you have with other Sasanis?
Yes. The idea is that all information exists at the same time. Time is an illusion. So the idea is that when a concept is formed, all the information having to do with that concept is there all at once in a non-verbal way. The idea is that even going on in this channeling, in this transmission, when someone asks a question, all the information is there and it is delivered by us all at once. It simply takes time to unspool through the channel's brain and translate into the language that you understand, because I'm not speaking English. I'm simply sending telepathic thoughts, telepathic concepts that are whole unto themselves and contain every part of the issue all at once. Whatever then needs to be unspooled and translated into your language takes time. But the original communication is there instantaneously, all at the same time. That's how it happens in non-physical reality. There's no verbal communication. It's all about resonance. It's all about vibration and matching frequencies. When you're on a certain frequency level, you understand exactly the things that are commensurate with that frequency level. So it's about matching frequencies and receiving all the information at the same time that is germane to that particular frequency. Does that answer your question, or is there some specific thing you want to explore?
No, that does actually, because she was able to describe having listened to conversations down the hall, realizing her brother was traveling from a distance to come see her. So she was able to gather all this and realize everything all at the same time. So
yes, on that level, it's holistic and holographic.
Is there how can we emulate that more on Earth?
By following the formula and opening up to following your passion and being in a state of love all the time. Because when you are in a state of love, when you're following your passion and doing what you love to do, your frequency automatically raises. And when your frequency raises, it becomes a more sensitive receiver and an antenna to receive higher dimensional information.
That actually dovetails into my next question.
How synchronistic.
About death. Every person who claims to have a near-death experience, they all say the same thing about blissfulness and peacefulness and unconditional love. And and I just wonder what is this place? Is it a state, or is it a place, or how do we?
It's both. It's
how
both.
do we recreate that?
It's both. The idea is to understand that what you translate in your physical reality as the concept of unconditional love and bliss is actually the frequency of existence itself. So in that state, when you remove yourself from some of the limitations you impose upon your consciousness that have to do with limitations of space and time, you are more adept at perceiving directly the frequency of existence itself. And that is that unconditional support and love that you talk about from the physical perspective.
Okay. Now, regarding spirits,
Yes.
how are some spirits, do some spirits linger in this state?
Yes.
And why do some spirits choose to remain like on Earth? Recently,
They're not on Earth per se, but they're in what might be termed the lower astral realms that are close enough to the physical vibration that they might sometimes be perceived by those sensitive enough to see them. There are different layers of frequencies in the afterlife, so to speak. And those that may feel they have unfinished business may linger to deliver a message wherever they can. Those that feel they need to guide someone else who is having a difficult time may linger to be a spirit guide for them. And there are those that sometimes die based on their belief systems that feel like they don't even know that they're dead. So they may continue to act like they're trying to live their physical life and perhaps be confused about why certain people can't talk to them or see them anymore, but be lost in their confusion because of fear and negative belief systems that they harbored when they were alive that doesn't allow them to understand they can open up and go further into the spirit world. So there are many reasons, as there are individuals who may choose to remain close to the physical vibration of Earth.
Okay. Yeah, that explains a couple of the questions I had after. Now, is this self-selected, or is this self-selected by them to linger behind to finish?
Well, as I said, some of them select that consciously, and some of them may not know they have an option to move on. It depends on what belief systems you hold on to most strongly when you die. But eventually, people either in physical reality or in spirit can be guides for them to remind them and let them go that they have crossed over, they are now no longer physical in the same way, and that they can move on to higher and higher levels if they so desire. So they will always have help, but also sometimes they may have to go through a particular process in the same way that people on Earth have to go through certain processes to make certain realizations. Just because you're in spirit doesn't necessarily mean you're finished with a particular process. However, the majority of people, especially in this day and age on your planet, are aware of such ideas and therefore are less likely to remain earthbound, as you say, because they know that they're starting to hear stories of near-death experiences, shared death experiences, and the bliss and peace and joy and love that goes with it. And that can actually color exactly what they're able to experience when they do die.
Wonderful. I recently had a friend that passed, and is there a way for me to raise my frequency to communicate with him?
I just told you, follow the formula, follow your passion, because it raises your frequency, and then synchronicity will take over, and you will know when you have received a communication. Now, for most people, it's a little easier to receive those communications when you're asleep in your dreams, because then your physical mind and all of its insistences are out of the way. But yes, by following your passion, you can allow the physical reality to become a little bit more lucid and allow more flexibility of communication with higher frequency dimensions like spirit. And synchronicity plays a big part in that. A lot of times a message delivered from spirit will not necessarily come with trumpets or voices or things like that. They will often use what's easiest and in front of your face already by simply making a very soft suggestion that today on your walk you will turn left instead of right, because they know that if you turn left instead of right, you may overhear a conversation that reminds you of them or see something that reminds you of them, and then you will know that that unusual synchronicity, that unusual choice to make a difference in your walking path is actually a message saying, hi, I'm here. And I just had to tell you, just had to urge you to go one way or the other to know that there's a message from me to you. That's more often than not how spirit will do it, because physical minds are so limited and so focused that it's easier to use what's already in front of your face to get the message through.
That's fantastic. One other thing that I recently heard an audio of this gentleman explaining, and he had a memory of his soul attached into a pre-fetus.
Yes.
And how he was scared and how he had to lower his frequency to get down to the fetus level.
Yes.
And how he rejected it the first 2 times and then it finally attached.
Yes.
Is that possible to have a pre-fetus memory?
You exist eternally. And therefore, from a linear perspective, there can be a before this life as well as an after this life, even though everything exists at the same time when you eliminate the concept of time in a timeless state. So yes, spirits can experience certain ideas previous to the idea of making the choice to have a physical experience, and that can be many different kinds of experiences.
Wow. The attachment process is interesting to me. Do the souls choose the fetus, or is the fetus choosing the soul, or is that selected by?
Well, in a sense, from your perspective, it would be more like the soul choosing the fetus. You choose everything. In a sense, the fetus also has a type of consciousness that does match the needs of the soul. So it's by an agreement. But the idea is that everything is a choice. Nothing is by accident, really. You choose your family, you choose in many ways the situations and circumstances that you believe in that life you need to learn what you are choosing to learn for your own soul's growth and continuation.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Bashar. Appreciate it.
It is our passion and our pleasure, and we bid you good day.
Hello, Tadeo.
Nania.
We have lots of questions from our viewers.
All right.
The first question is, can you explain more about the mechanics of the heart chakra? To be more specific, how focusing on your heart chakra can be more beneficial than focusing on other chakras, and how the heart chakra relates to other chakras?
It is not more beneficial. It depends on what it is you wish to focus on. Obviously, the other chakra systems in your body are also essential. They are all interconnected. They all take their cues, in some sense, from the heart. As we said, the heart reflects the vibration of the higher mind, kind of like a drum. It repeats the vibration in physical terms, so the physical mind can receive it along the neurological pathways and through the blood. But then, of course, the physical mind may have belief system filters in place that will color or filter or change that vibration, feeding back to the heart the degree of alignment or the degree of misalignment from the original vibration that was sent from the higher mind to the heart. The heart then disperses that vibration to all the centers of the body, all the chakra points, all the cellular structures along the neurological network of the body, thus allowing the cells to know whether you are generally in alignment with your true self or out of alignment, and how far out of alignment you might be. This is what can cause the idea of disease in the body by the heart reflecting the degree of filtering or negativity in the belief system of the physical mind to the rest of the body. And in that sense, it is a great organizer for the body as to what is going on. It is a synchronizer of that vibration that comes from the higher mind to the heart, but then through the physical mind and its belief systems, and then to the body. This is how they generally are interrelated and interconnected. Essential in that sense, but not essential in that it is more important than any other chakra system in the body or chakra point. It again depends upon what you wish to focus on.
Okay, thank you. This question is, as a mother, I experience unconditional love with my daughter. As she crossed over, I feel so disconnected and lost. The pain has been overwhelming, and I do not understand why a mother has to go through this after experiencing blissful, unconditional love with a daughter. Why is this acceptable?
The idea is for those that are still physical, when close loved ones pass into spirit, to reach out to them and allow themselves to still know that bliss can be experienced rather than having a belief system that the person has been lost. This is part of the training that you have agreed to as part of the evolution of the human species on your planet at this time, to have made an agreement with someone beloved that would cross into spirit before you, so that you can practice knowing that you are still connected, can reach out to them and still feel them and still develop a communication with them. The idea of treating this as if you have lost something is what causes the pain.
Allowing yourself to know that even sometimes by continuing to experience this or define it as a loss allows you to experience communication from them as pain, as grief. If you would let go of the idea that they are lost or gone, that they are still very much present with you in a variety of ways, just on a different level, then you will honor the agreement you made with your daughter to allow her to stretch your consciousness into spirit so that you may experience the benefits of making those connections in your physical reality. This is a great favor and loving thing that she has done with you, to give you the chance, while still physical, to expand your awareness, expand your consciousness, and experience in your life the benefits of making a stronger connection consciously to the idea of her in the spirit realm.
Thank you. From an absolute standpoint, is my conscious experience absolutely all that there is without anything being outside of it? Or do others have their own conscious experience outside of my consciousness? Does oneness not invalidate any separation, like something being outside of my consciousness?
It depends on the level that you're looking from. In other words, you can have an experience of separation, which is what you have in physical reality. That doesn't mean you actually are literally separated. Again, the paradox is that you are using your connection to create an experience of separation. You couldn't have an experience of individual separation if you actually weren't connected to all that is. So in that ultimate sense, from that perspective, no, there is no outside. But from the experience of individuation, from the experience of creating the illusion of separation, then yes, you can have an outside, and there are many beings you may be unaware of that are having their own experiences. Your experiential reality only contains your versions of other beings. They exist in their own right, in a sense, outside of you, and there may be millions of them that you do not experience because there is no reason for you to create a version of those beings in your reality experience. At the same time, this is all happening within the all that is, that has no outside. But you have to understand that you cannot necessarily mix your language that way. You can't mix your definitions that way in a coherent sense. You have to understand what level that you're talking from. When you say, is there really an outside? If everything is one, there shouldn't be an outside. Well, yes, on that level, that's true. But you're talking from the experience of having created the illusion of separation, which creates the illusion of an outside and many beings that you may not be aware of outside of yourself.
Amazing. What happens to those people that have heart transplants or artificial hearts in relation to the multi-level aspects of, your native heart when you have a normal heart?
Well, again, as many people on your planet have experienced, you may start picking up on some of the vibrations that were connected to the heart of the other individual and take on some of those qualities. In a sense, it is a way of making a stronger connection to another individual by actually having their physical heart in your body. It's one way to understand the connection that exists through vibration between all of you, whether you have a heart transplant or not. But nevertheless, you can start exhibiting, as many of you know, some of the traits and qualities of the other person whose heart has been donated to you. So, the artificial heart, in that sense, may connect you to a different level of consciousness that might be closer to the concept of artificial intelligence. So it depends upon the reasons why you have chosen to have that experience, what it is you have agreed to connect to, how it is you will utilize that connection, whatever it is, in your particular reality application to move forward in your life, and what lessons you can learn from the connections you have made to something that you consider to be other than yourself.